In London, England, Danny Meehan, a professional soccer player, achieved fame and fortune thanks to his talent in the sport. He even became captain of the English national team, but allegations of match fixing in a game against Germany led to his banishment from the sport. Away from soccer, Danny continues to spend his money on alcohol, going from bar to bar to forget his problems. However, one afternoon, the player exceeds the speed limit on the highway while emptying a bottle of alcohol, which attracts the attention of the police. To make matters worse, as soon as Danny enters another bar, 2 police officers ask him to accompany them to the police station, but Danny refuses and even attacks the officers. Because of this, the player is sentenced to 3 years in Marsh, a maximum security prison. Upon arrival, Danny is greeted by dozens of angry inmates due to the negative image he left on the England team. In addition, the player is introduced to the prison supervisor, Mr. Burton, who informs him of a proposal that the director of Marsh wishes to make. The warden wants the player to coach his soccer team, but Mr. Burton warns Danny not to accept, as he is the official captain of the team. After that, Burton sends his officers, Hayter and Ratchet, to show Danny his cell and the place where he will work. They then introduce Danny to Doc, one of Marsh's oldest prisoners, to help him with cleaning the lawn. While working, Danny also meets Charlie Sykes, a gangster who accuses the player of causing him to lose money. Apparently, Charlie bet on England to beat Germany, but Danny missed a penalty in a very suspicious manner. The gangster then threatens him, saying he will get his money back one way or another. Despite this, Danny continues his work, and at lunchtime, he meets Nitro and Massive, 2 of his fans and smugglers in prison. While Massive seems to be a trustworthy guy, Danny doesn't like Nitro and prefers to stay away from him. At the end of the day, the player goes to his cell, where he meets his colleagues, Raj, Jerome, and Trojan, but they don't like the newcomer very much. The next morning, Danny continues his work with Doc, who gives him some advice on how to survive in Marsh. The first piece of advice is to stay away from Monk, one of the most dangerous prisoners, known for having eliminated 23 men with his bare hands. At the end of his shift, Danny is summoned to the Marsh warden's office, who invites him to coach his amateur team. The team is made up of Marsh guards, and the warden hopes to make good money if the team excels at the sport. Fearing punishment, Danny declines the offer, with the excuse that he has been away from the sport for a long time. Back in the cafeteria, Danny goes to get his lunch when suddenly, one of the inmates named Ketch confronts the newcomer. He accuses the player of throwing the game to Germany, but Danny is not intimidated and tells the guy to back off. This only makes the prisoner even more furious, and he lunges at the newcomer, with the 2 starting a fight in the middle of the cafeteria. Quickly, the guards order everyone to behave, but when Danny takes Hayter's baton, Ratchet attacks him with pepper spray. Soon after, the player is taken to solitary confinement and forced to spend the rest of the night there as punishment. The next day, Mr. Burton calls Danny to the field, where he meets the warden again, who once more offers him the chance to coach his team. Otherwise, he could lose his parole and have to stay in prison until the end of his sentence. Once again, the player refuses, and the warden sends him back to solitary confinement to think about the proposal. Minutes later, Massive goes to Danny's cell and says he has thought of an idea to get the warden to leave him alone. He suggests that instead of Danny being the coach, he can create his own team with the inmates to serve as training for the warden's team. Danny likes the idea and asks to speak to the warden, proposing to put together a team and play a friendly match as a form of training. The warden agrees to the terms, and Danny calls on Massive as his assistant to find potential players. The guy accepts and starts calling the prisoners, but none of them show any interest. Massive continues to search, and while practicing keepy-uppies in the corridors, he is approached by Officer Hayter. Although he is one of the best-behaved prisoners, the police officer has an irrational hatred for him and, for no reason, begins to attack him. Massive asks his colleagues for help, but none of them dare to confront the prison guard. However, seeing his colleague being cowardly attacked, Danny lunges at Hayter and pushes him against the wall. Immediately afterwards, the player asks for help to take Massive to the doctor, but instead, the other guards appear and attack Danny. After many blows, the player is taken to solitary confinement again, where he is forced to spend days locked up. Finally, the player is released, and upon arriving in the prison yard, he is greeted by Raj, Jerome, and other prisoners, who were surprised by his attitude towards Hayter. As a thank you for what he did for Massive, everyone agrees to join Danny's team. The player then calls the group to the field, and alongside Massive and Doc, he begins to train them and evaluate their performance. The vast majority of candidates are not very skilled with the ball, except for Trojan, who demonstrates good control and the ability to be a striker. Training continues until Nitro goes to talk to Danny, asking to be his assistant, but he informs him that Massive has already taken the position. This offends the prisoner, and shortly after, he goes to a hidden place to talk to Officer Hader. It is then revealed that Nitro is one of the guard's informants, and he reports all prisoners who step out of line in exchange for favors. He promises the guard that he will keep an eye on Massive and plans to set a trap for Danny. Nitro then goes to talk to Ketch, who is still furious about the beating he took from the player, and says he saw Danny meeting with Mr. Burton. Nitro suspects that Danny is turning in the prisoners to the prison warden, and seeing a chance to eliminate him, Ketch decides to put it to the test. Minutes later, as Danny finishes cleaning himself up in the bathroom, Ketch attacks him from behind, with his colleague Shiv appearing shortly after, holding a knife. The man puts the blade against Danny's face and threatens to remove one of his eyes for reporting the other prisoners. Danny tries to prove his innocence, but the prisoners continue to threaten him, so he retaliates with a headbutt to Ketch, followed by a punch to Shiv. Before the fight continues, Mr. Burton and his men appear, and despite the wound on his face, Danny covers it up, saying that the injury is from shaving. As soon as the police leave, Danny returns the knife to Shiv, proving that he is not an informant. Shiv and Ketch are surprised by this attitude and even offer to play on Danny's team. In addition, as Shiv and Ketch are part of Charlie Sykes' gang, the crime boss calls the player to talk alone. For helping his men, he is willing to forgive the money he lost if Danny's team wins the match against the warden's team. However, the gangster also imposes one more condition, that Danny fight one of his men in a fixed fight. Charlie's idea is to set up a scheme so that Danny wins the fight and earns the gangster's trust in front of the other prisoners. With no other choice, the player accepts, and his fight will be against another inmate named Nick that same night. While preparing for the fight, Danny asks Doc how he managed to stay in prison for so long without losing his sanity. The old man says he was a war veteran and had leftover army weapons in his house. One day, he got into a fight with a neighbor, and as revenge, he threw a grenade into his house. The problem is that the guy had a family, and with the explosion, they were all eliminated. Guilt overwhelms Doc, and he remains in prison, knowing that he will never be forgiven for this terrible crime. The two continue their conversation, and in the meantime, Nitro continues his obsession with punishing Danny for rejecting him from his team. The prisoner is in his cell, sketching a drawing he made of the player, when Hader shows up, looking for more info on the prisoners. But Nitro is tired of life at Longmarsh and wants to be transferred to a minimum security prison. The police officer promises that he will get it, but first, Nitro must do him a very important favor. While the two talk, Danny goes to the fight challenge, armed by Sykes, but when he gets there, he finds out that Nick has fallen ill. Because of this, the gangster has called another prisoner, none other than Ketch, to take his place. The fight then consists of the two participants sitting at a table with their hands chained. With each blow delivered, the fighter must drink a glass of water, and the one who manages to knock his opponent's head against the table will be the winner. As soon as the two fighters take their positions, the judge authorizes the challenger to begin, and Danny hits Ketch with a punch to the nose. However, his opponent is not intimidated, and after recovering from the blow, he retaliates with a headbutt, leaving the player stunned. As the rounds progress, the fight becomes more heated, and even the police bet on a winner, watching everything on security cameras. Danny then tries to land another punch, but Ketch dodges and retaliates with a blow to his face. After several blows and many glasses of water, Ketch starts to feel sick and tries to punch Danny, who manages to dodge and hits him with all his strength. With this blow, Ketch falls headfirst onto the table, and Danny is then declared the winner of the contest. Thanks to this victory, Sykes keeps his word and signs the agreement with Danny to win the match. Another day passes, and Danny has almost completed his team's lineup, but during training, the players don't know how to work as a team. In addition, none of the prisoners want to be the goalkeeper, and Danny needs to find one as soon as possible. Shiv then suggests calling Monk for this position and takes Danny to his cell, which is located in the most isolated corridor of Longmarsh. Once there, Danny offers Monk a spot on his team, and upon discovering that he will be playing against the guards team, he accepts without hesitation. Now that the lineup is set, training continues in the prison, while Mr. Burton prepares the guards team on a professional court. During one of the sessions, Danny decides to change things up a bit and asks Shiv to talk about illegal moves. The guy then asks Monk for help with demonstrations, and Billy, a paranoid prisoner, volunteers to impress Danny. The problem is that with each move mentioned by Shiv, Monk decides to show it in practice. Because of this, Billy begins to receive various types of attacks, so that all players know what not to do in the game. After this lesson, Doc says he is proud of Danny for the way he has been leading the prisoners. The player is happy about this, but nearby, Hader and Ratchet talk in secret, with the guard saying he has plans for the player. Hader then goes to Nitro to ask for a favor, and the prisoner uses his skills to assemble a bomb. The next day, Danny is called to a meeting with Sykes, who has obtained confidential information that could help them secure victory. However, as soon as Danny leaves his cell, Nitro breaks in and places the bomb inside his locker. Unaware of what is happening, the player attends the meeting, but realizes he has left his notes inside the locker and goes to retrieve them. However, Doc offers to go, as he needs to use the bathroom first. The old man then takes the keys, and at the end of the meeting, Jerome finally asks why Danny gave away the penalty in that game. After years of hiding the truth, he reveals that, with his success in sports, he ended up losing control and began to squander his entire fortune. However, at one point, he owed a lot of money to loan sharks, and they threatened him to miss the penalty kick in exchange for forgiving his debt. Danny then deliberately missed the penalty kick, and feels guilty about it to this day, as fame and fortune made him forget the true meaning of soccer. Ironically, he ended up learning this now, during his time in prison, and with the help of his colleagues, especially Doc. Unfortunately, as soon as his friend leaves the bathroom and goes to the cell, he opens Danny's safe and is hit squarely by the bomb. After this tragedy, Nitro goes to talk to the guards to receive his reward, and as Hader promised, the prisoner will be transferred. However, the man discovers that instead of a minimum security prison, he will be taken to a psychiatric institution, where he will spend the rest of his life. Furious, Nitro tries to attack the guard, but to no avail, and he is taken in a police van to his new permanent home. Back in Longmarsh, Danny and the others go to Doc's funeral, and despite everything, the player is happy that his friend is finally free. More days pass, and the time comes for the big game between the prisoners' team and the guards' team. When they arrive at the locker room, Danny gives a motivational speech to the players, telling them that with this game, a new chapter in their stories begins. Then Charlie hands the players a box with the last gift given by Doc. He then takes out the team uniforms, which have been named Mean Machine. At that same moment, Mr. Burton also prepares his team and reinforces with them the importance of today's game, as defeat is not an option. Finally, the two teams enter the prison field, where the warden, along with the governor and other guests, wait in the stands. On the other side, the prisoners follow everything on the radio, hoping that Danny and his team will bring home the victory. With everyone in position, Danny gathers the team one last time and asks them to take advantage of this chance to prove their worth. Finally, the referee authorizes the start of the match, with Raj passing the ball to Danny, who tries to cross to Trojan, but the player is pushed by the opposing team. Because of this, the referee calls a foul and Trojan takes a shot in the opposing area, with Ratchet rushing to head the ball. However, Ketch knocks the man down with a push, and without anyone noticing, he steps on the guard's leg, who feels the injury. Despite this disadvantage, the guards team takes possession of the ball, and in an attacking move, Mr. Burton shoots at the goal. Fortunately, the ball goes straight through, resulting in a goal kick for the Mean Machine. After the ball returns to the field, Danny attempts an individual play, but is tackled by Mr. Burton. The referee again calls a foul, and to get revenge on the guards, Danny deliberately kicks toward a very painful area, hitting Ratchet, who falls to the ground with no strength to get up. The match continues and the players abandon the rules, striking each other with every move. The atmosphere becomes increasingly tense, and in another dangerous move, Mr. Burton manages to dribble past goalkeeper Monk and shoots again towards the goal. Luckily, Shiv manages to slide across the field and prevent the ball from going in, which only makes the director even more frustrated. With 23 minutes left in the first half, neither team has scored a goal, but the guards don't give up and try another attack. However, Ketch interrupts the play by pulling the opposing player by his shirt and knocking him to the ground. The referee immediately calls another foul and awards a kick to Mr. Burton's team, who has the chance to score and increase the score. As soon as the referee blows the whistle, Mr. Burton takes the kick, and the ball hits the wall, rising high and slowly reaching the goal. Monk prepares to defend, and for a moment, his evil side resurfaces and he begins to hallucinate, fiercely attacking all the players with his hands. Luckily, the prisoner controls himself and makes a clean save, throwing the ball back onto the field. Trojan recovers the ball, and just as he did in training, he starts an individual play, dribbling past the players and reaching the opponent's area. But this time, he follows Danny's advice and plays with the team, crossing the ball to the other side of the field. Raj is ready to attempt a header, but ends up slipping on the field, so Danny seizes the opportunity and, with a first-time shot, scores the goal that opens the scoring. All the prisoners go crazy, while the warden becomes enraged at the shame of seeing his team concede a goal. After that point, the match resumes, but Monk decides to leave the goal and takes the ball, running towards the opponent's area. Suddenly, he is knocked down by one of the guards and again, he has to control his anger, but warns the player not to do it again. This foul only makes the game even more heated, and suddenly, one of the guards punches catch, which starts a general brawl on the field. Even the commentators start fighting among themselves, forcing the referee to end the match seconds before the end of the first half. With everyone back in the locker room, the director goes to talk to Mr. Burden, warning him and the other guards that this is not just a friendly match. This game will determine the jobs of all of them, so they had better take it more seriously. After scolding his team, the director goes to the rival team's locker room and calls Danny over to talk, telling him that he must throw the game, just as he did in the match against Germany. Danny refuses, but the director warns him that before being transferred, Nitro wrote a confession about Doc's perishment. In that message, he said that Danny sent Doc to his locker, which would make him an accomplice, increasing his sentence to 20 years. Faced with this situation, Danny has no choice but to throw the game, and when he returns for the second half, he begins to miss shots on purpose. The team is confused by this attitude, but they continue the match until Raj is hit by one of the guards. The prisoner becomes enraged and punches the guard in the face, but the referee sees everything and sends him off with a red card. Now with only 10 players, the team struggles to deal with the opposing team, but in an attacking move, Monk recovers the ball and starts running through the area. Instead of trying to play alone, he passes the ball to Trojan, who uses his skill to dodge all the guards. Arriving in the area, he crosses to Ketch, who with a kick increases the score to 2-0. Mean Machine is about to win, but Monk gets carried away and, when he gets the ball, starts showing off in the middle of the field. Because of this, one of the guards takes possession of the ball and scores a goal, reducing the difference in the score to 2-1. This mistake dampens the team's spirits, which only gets worse when Danny fakes a foul, only to be sent off the field. However, the team has no substitute players, and the team is left with only 9 on the field, which leaves their defense open, and the guards' team manages to tie the game with another goal. Massive realizes that something is wrong with Danny, but he refuses to say what happened. The match continues, and the prisoners' team becomes completely disoriented, while the warden celebrates that victory is near. Faced with this situation, Danny decides to risk everything and returns to the field, determined to win. The players, however, begin to doubt him, but the captain does his best to regain their trust, doing everything he can to take possession of the ball. In an attacking move, the guards try to score a goal, but lose the ball and the prisoners take advantage of the chance to turn the score around. However, Monk gets excited again and attacks the guard who fouled him, knocking him to the ground and stepping on his legs. At that very moment, the prisoners' team manages to advance on the field and score the third goal, but the referee disallows it because of Monk's foul. Mr. Burden then takes the kick, but Monk manages to defend it and crosses the ball to Danny, who receives it practically alone on the field. The player then runs towards the opponent's area, and even though he is knocked down by the goalkeeper, Danny gets up and advances towards the goal. However, instead of scoring, he passes the ball to another player, none other than Billy, who, to everyone's surprise, kicks the ball and scores the winning goal. The whole team gathers to celebrate with Danny, who has finally redeemed himself in the sport. After the celebration, the warden goes to talk to the player, saying that he will regret it, and then orders Mr. Burden to lock Danny in solitary confinement for the rest of his life. However, the supervisor refuses to obey and congratulates Danny on his victory in a fair game. Finally, Danny hands the game ball to the warden and returns to prison, certain that he made the right decision and, at least for a few minutes, gave the prisoners a chance to feel free thanks to soccer. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.